Talk right here real quick, back here.
About what?
You need to step out of the vehicle.
Step out for what?
So there's a firearm in this vehicle. You're already speeding. You don't have anything on you. I'm separating you from the firearm. Alright, are you going to get out of the car or not?
I don't tell me why.
Yes, sir. Hey, how's it going?
Yeah, my son detained.
Yes, sir. He's currently under arrest for obstruction.
Okay.
As well as a variety of other traffic charges. Yeah, he was caught doing 70 in a 45. He was instructed to step out of the vehicle because there was a firearm on the dashboard, and we wanted to separate him from that, and he refused.
Did he express his fear for safety?
We got to be safe too. He's right there with John, right?
Understood.
The internet is exploding right now, and the shockwaves are vibrating through every corner of the entertainment industry. If you've been on social media in the last 48 hours, you've seen the images. You've seen the headlines. But behind the chaotic clips and the sensationalist thumbnails, something much darker may be unfolding in real time. Hollywood is whispering, and for once, the whispers aren't about a new movie role or a chart-topping single. They are about a young man who seems to be slipping through the cracks of a legacy built on grit and gold. What started as a simple rumor about a family disagreement has morphed into something much bigger, a narrative of a falling star that many fans believe is reaching a dangerous breaking point. According to intense online speculation, the son of one of hip-hop's most powerful dynasties is no longer just acting out. Some insiders claim that the infrastructure designed to protect him has begun to crumble, leaving him exposed to the harshest lights of public scrutiny. Unverified reports suggest that the tension behind closed doors has reached an all-time high, with the lines between a rebellious youth and a genuine tragedy becoming increasingly blurred. Fans believe they are witnessing a slow-motion train wreck, one fueled by the unique pressures of growing up in the shadow of a legend. This isn't just about a celebrity kid making a mistake. It's about a pattern of behavior that has left the world asking, is anyone actually looking out for King Harris? As the clips go viral and the comments sections turn into battlegrounds, we have to wonder if we are watching a young man find his voice, or if we are watching him lose his way in the most public way possible. To understand the weight of the current situation, we have to look back at the foundation. King Harris didn't just grow up in wealth. He grew up in a reality television fishbowl. As the son of Clifford T.I. Harris and Tamika Tiny Harris, he was introduced to the world as a charismatic, energetic child on T.I. Tiny, The Family Hustle. He was the spunky kid with the big personality, the one who seemed destined to inherit the King of the South mantle. For years, the public image was one of perfection, or at least a controlled version of it. We saw the lavish birthdays, the high-end recording studios, and the seemingly unbreakable family bond. T.I. presented himself as the ultimate disciplinarian, a father who valued respect, education, and the hustle above all else. In this environment, King was the golden boy, the heir apparent to an empire built on both musical genius and street credibility. He was supposed to be the bridge between his father's hard-earned legacy and a new, polished era of stardom. But as King transitioned from a child into a young adult, the cracks in the narrative began to appear. It wasn't just typical teenage rebellion. It was a fundamental clash of identities. On one hand, you had King, a young man clearly desperate to prove his own street cred, despite growing up in a gated mansion. On the other, you had the public, who refused to see him as anything other than a silver spoon kid playing a character. This disconnect created a volatile pressure cooker. Slowly, the playful banter we saw on television began to sour. The family hustle started to feel more like a family struggle. In late 2022, a verbal altercation at a Waffle House became the first major indicator that something was off. King was seen on video aggressively shouting at staff over an order error, while his parents later attempted to frame it as a learning moment. But the public wasn't buying the badass kid excuse anymore. They saw a young man who felt he had something to prove, and he was willing to burn bridges to prove it. The dynamic between father and son became the focal point of the drama. T.I., known for his extensive vocabulary and stoic demeanor, often found himself at odds with King's more erratic, high-energy outbursts. According to some fans who have followed the family for years, the pressure to live up to the Harris name might have been the very thing driving King toward the edge. He wasn't just fighting the public, he was fighting the image of his father. As the years progressed, the incidents grew more frequent. It wasn't just a Waffle House argument anymore. It was social media rants where he claimed he didn't live with his parents during his childhood, aiming to distance himself from the very luxury that defined his public persona. These claims were met with skepticism and even mockery, further isolating him from both his family and his audience. The tragedy began to take shape, not in a single event, but in the slow erosion of a young man's sense of self in the pursuit of an authenticity he didn't actually need. By 2024, the situation had escalated from family drama to legal reality. Multiple arrests for traffic violations and outstanding warrants began to populate his record. Each time, he seemed to treat the incidents with a sense of defiance rather than concern. To the outside observer, it appeared that the safety net of his parents' influence was the only thing keeping him from a complete collapse. But even a safety net can only hold so much weight before it begins to tear. The escalation didn't happen in a vacuum. It was fueled by a digital era that thrives on conflict. In early 2025, online rumors began to circulate that the divide between T.I and King had become irreparable. Alleged leaks from within the Harris camp, which must be clearly labeled as unverified, suggested that T.I had reached his limit with King's public antics. Social media was flooded with clips of the two arguing during live streams, moments where the tension was so thick you could feel it through the screen. Industry whispers began to suggest that King's behavior was no longer just a phase. Some fans think that he was intentionally sabotaging his career to spite his father's expectations. There was no confirmed evidence of a formal disowning, but the visual cues were impossible to ignore. In one viral clip, King appeared to be physically restrained during a heated debate with his father at a football game. The sight of a legendary rapper struggling to control his adult son in public sent shockwaves through the fan base. Fan theories began to take a darker turn. Some hypothesized that King was suffering from the child star syndrome, where the lack of a normal upbringing leads to an identity crisis in adulthood. Others went further, suggesting that the King persona was a shield for a young man who felt deeply misunderstood. They pointed to his increasingly aggressive social media presence as a cry for help. While these remain purely theories, the consistency of his outbursts gave them a haunting level of credibility in the eyes of the public. Then came the Pikachu incident, a moment so surreal it felt like something out of a scripted movie. In April 2026, reports surfaced that King had been arrested in Gwinnett County. The details were jarring. He was reportedly wearing a Pikachu onesie at the time of the arrest. According to the reports, he was stopped for speeding, but things escalated when officers discovered a controlled substance and a firearm. The social media reaction was instantaneous and polarized. Half the internet found it hilarious, turning the Pikachu arrest into an overnight meme. The other half saw it as the ultimate confirmation of the tragedy. They argued that the humor was a mask for a very serious legal situation. A felony drug possession charge is no laughing matter. Yet, King himself leaned into the chaos. He posted selfies from the encounter, comparing the police to Team Rocket and making light of the fact that he was caught with a master ball. This defiance, this refusal to acknowledge the gravity of the situation, is what truly escalated the controversy. Some fans believe this was the moment the King they knew officially disappeared, replaced by a persona that was completely untethered from reality. There were unverified claims that his parents were exhausted by the legal fees and the constant PR damage control. Reportedly, even the inner circle of the Atlanta music scene began to distance themselves, fearing that King's energy was becoming too hot for business. The online communities reacted with a mixture of fascination and dread. Is he trying to get locked up? One popular tweet asked, garnering hundreds of thousands of likes. He's trying so hard to be hood that he's going to lose his freedom for a meme, another user commented. The tragedy wasn't just the arrest. It was the perception that King was actively chasing a lifestyle that didn't belong to him, all while his actual life, a life of privilege and potential, was being lit on fire for the world to see. The true emotional tipping point occurred during a late-night live stream that many fans describe as uncomfortable to watch. In the footage, King appeared visibly agitated, pacing in a dimly lit room while addressing his critics. Unlike his usual boastful rants, this one felt desperate. He spoke about fake love and the burden of the name, his voice cracking as he insisted he didn't need his father's money or his father's respect. "Y'all think you know me because you saw me at 10 years old on a TV show?" he shouted at the camera. "You don't know what I have to do to be seen. You don't know the pressure." This cryptic post was followed by a series of deleted tweets that suggested a deep-seated resentment toward the industry as a whole. One tweet, which was up for only 3 minutes before being scrubbed, simply read, "They want the king, but they don't want the man. I'm tired of the act." The fan reactions were trending within minutes. The hashtag Save King Harris began to circulate, but it was met with equal parts empathy and frustration. Many felt that King was crying wolf, using his emotional distress as a shield whenever he faced legal consequences. But for others, the live stream was a chilling look at a mental breakdown in real time. They saw a young man who was drowning in his own narrative, unable to distinguish between his real life and the character he felt forced to play. Building tension reached a fever pitch when Tiny Harris, usually her son's fiercest defender, posted a cryptic quote on her Instagram story. "Sometimes the hardest thing to do is watch someone you love learn the hard way." The post didn't mention King by name, but the timing was undeniable. It felt like a public admission of defeat. Fans took this as a sign that even his mother, the woman who had stood by him through every Waffle House fight and every traffic stop, was finally stepping back. This perceived abandonment sent King into another social media spiral. He began posting old photos of himself as a child, juxtaposed with aggressive rap lyrics about betrayal and standing alone. The emotional whiplash was exhausting for his followers. One moment he was the defiant Pikachu mocking the law, and the next he was a lonely son posting memories of a happier time. The tension wasn't just on social media, it was felt in the streets of Atlanta. Local influencers who had once been seen around King began to go silent. The lively, high-energy parties he used to host were replaced by silence. According to some fans, the clout was no longer worth the controversy. They believed that King was becoming radioactive, a figure so volatile that even his closest associates were afraid to be caught in the blast radius of his next outburst. As the trend continued, the tragedy became a talking point for cultural commentators. They began to compare King Harris to other lost celebrity children, drawing parallels to the tragic downfalls of those who couldn't handle the weight of their parents' fame. The drama wasn't just about an arrest anymore. It was about the potential loss of a soul. Every cryptic post and every deleted tweet felt like a breadcrumb leading toward a conclusion that nobody wanted to see, yet nobody could stop watching. In the wake of the felony charges and the increasingly erratic behavior, the industry's response was swift and chillingly quiet. Major brands that had previously flirted with the idea of partnering with King for lifestyle or streetwear campaigns suddenly went silent. There were no public denouncements, but the absence of his name on guest lists and upcoming promotional materials spoke volumes. This wasn't a coordinated conspiracy. It was the cold, calculated movement of corporate interest retreating from a liability. Public figures who were once frequent collaborators with the Harris family began posting cryptic quotes about protecting one's peace and the importance of boundaries. While never naming King directly, the timing of these posts coincided perfectly with his most recent legal battles. Fans noticed a wave of unfollows from prominent Atlanta rappers and influencers. The digital distancing was a clear signal. King Harris was on an island of his own making. The media silence from major hip-hop outlets was perhaps the most telling reaction. Usually, a T.I family controversy would be covered extensively, but this time, the coverage felt hesitant, almost somber. It was as if the industry was collectively holding its breath, waiting to see if this was just another minor speed bump or the beginning of a total collapse. There were no flashy interviews, no exclusive sit-downs to explain his side of the story. The silence felt like a heavy blanket being thrown over a fire that had become too hot to manage. Observations from industry insiders suggested that T.I.'s own business dealings were being impacted. While T.I. remained a legend, the constant need to address his son's behavior was reportedly becoming a distraction during high-level meetings. Fans observed that T.I. began focusing more on his own solo projects and film work, subtly shifting the spotlight away from the family brand that had been the cornerstone of his public life for over a decade. Even the world of social media advertising took a hit. King, who had a massive following that usually translated into high-paying sponsored posts, saw a significant drop in paid partnership content. Brands that value authenticity were suddenly wary of a young man whose authenticity was being questioned by everyone from his father to his fans. The Pikachu incident, while viral, was seen as brand poison. It was funny to the internet, but terrifying to a boardroom. As the industry backed away, the narrative shifted from rebellious son to cautionary tale. Podcasts and talk shows began using King as a case study for the dangers of internet-era parenting. They discussed the ethics of filming a child for reality TV and whether that early exposure creates a hunger for attention that can never be satisfied. The conversation was no longer about King's music or his personality. It was about what he represented, the dark side of the American celebrity dream. The silence was punctuated only by the occasional supportive comment from a few fringe figures, but even these felt hollow. The big players, the ones who could actually help King navigate the legal and professional minefield he had walked into, were nowhere to be found. The industry that had celebrated his birth and cheered for his growth was now looking the other way as he struggled to find his footing. It was a stark reminder that in Hollywood, you are only as valuable as your last clean headline. But then, something happened that no one saw coming. Something that flipped the script on the entire tragedy narrative. Just as the world was ready to write King Harris off as another fallen star, a new voice entered the conversation. A voice from the past. A resurfaced clip from an unreleased documentary, filmed years ago during the peak of the family hustle, began to circulate on private forums before exploding onto TikTok. In the clip, a much younger King is heard talking to a producer behind the scenes. He isn't the hyper-aggressive rapper we see today. He sounds tired, quiet, and surprisingly self-aware. He speaks about the character of King and how he feels he has to perform a certain way for the cameras to keep the show interesting. "They want me to be the wild one," the young King says in the grainy footage. "If I'm just a normal kid, we don't get the ratings. My dad tells me I gotta have personality. But what if I just want to be quiet?" This clip changed everything for a significant portion of the audience. It introduced a radical new theory. Was the rebellion actually a long-term performance? Some fans believe that King isn't actually lost, but is instead trapped in a performance he started as a child and doesn't know how to stop. This wasn't a tragedy of character. It was a tragedy of circumstance. The Pikachu onesie, the Waffle House fight, the social media rants. What if they were all part of a desperate attempt to stay relevant in a family business that demands constant spectacle? The twist deepened when an anonymous source, claiming to be a former assistant to the family, suggested that the tension between T.I and King was, at least partially, exaggerated for a new reality project that never saw the light of day. This unverified claim sent the internet into a tailspin. If the conflict was manufactured, then the legal consequences King is facing now are the ultimate irony. A man who played a part so well he actually became the person he was pretending to be. Then, a sudden shift in King's own behavior added fuel to the fire. Following the Pikachu arrest, instead of going into hiding, he released a short, cinematic teaser for a project titled The Acting King. The teaser featured no music, just a series of shots of him looking into a mirror, removing various outfits, including the Pikachu onesie. The final shot was of him sitting in a plain white t-shirt, staring blankly into the camera. The conversation shifted instantly. Was this an admission? Was he telling us it was all a game? Or was this just a clever way to pivot the narrative and escape the trashy label? Fans were torn. Some felt manipulated, angry that their genuine concern had been used as marketing fodder. Others were impressed, seeing King as a misunderstood genius who was trolling the entire world to expose the hypocrisy of celebrity culture. But the most dramatic shift came when a reputable legal journalist pointed out a massive inconsistency in the Pikachu arrest reports. According to their investigation, the charges were being handled in a way that suggested a high level of cooperation with the authorities, something that didn't align with King's anti-police social media posts. This led to the most explosive theory yet, that King Harris might be working on something much larger than a rap career or a reality show. Some believe he is intentionally putting himself in these situations to document the legal system from the inside. Whether it's a performance, a cry for help, or a masterclass in narrative manipulation, the tragedy of King Harris has become a complex puzzle that no one can solve. The boy who grew up on camera is now using those same cameras to blur the lines between reality and fiction, leaving us all to wonder, who is the real King Harris? And more importantly, does he even know? As the dust settles on the latest controversy, we are left with more questions than answers. Is this the end of a legacy? Or just the beginning of a new, more dangerous chapter? Was it all love and family loyalty behind the scenes? Or was it a cold, calculated strategy to keep the Harris name in the headlines at any cost? The internet remains divided. Some see a young man in desperate need of an intervention, while others see a master of the digital age who knows exactly how to pull the strings of public perception. But as the felony charges loom and the silence from the industry grows louder, the stakes have never been higher. This isn't a television show anymore. This is a real life, with real consequences playing out in front of a global audience that is hungry for the next update. Is King Harris a victim of his own fame? Or is he the architect of his own chaos? And if the cameras were to stop rolling tomorrow, would there be anything left of the man behind the crown? The tragedy of King Harris is far from over, and the next move might be the one that changes everything forever. What do you think? Is this a genuine breakdown, or is King playing a game we don't understand yet? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe as we continue to follow this breaking story. This is just the beginning.